There are 51 achievements in Dishonored. The top 4 hardest ones are the Ghost, the Shadow, the Mostly Flesh and Steel, and the Clean Hands achievements. Looking at some of these numbers, it's usually 5% or less of gamers that actually get these achievements. So it's about 3.8% for the Ghost, 4.2% for the Shadow, 3.4% for Mostly Flesh and Steel, and about 5% for the Clean Hands achievement. So for every 100 gamers that play this game, only about 5 of them get any of these trophies, which is quite surprising. I thought it'd be more, but I guess not. So looking at the first trophy, the Ghost, what you have to do is you have to complete all missions after the prologue, alerting or killing no one but key targets, which can be quite tough because in this game you are given a bunch of options and abilities to be able to use, but to get this particular trophy you can't use certain abilities. So for example, you can't use something like Wind Blast because that could potentially damage and alert someone, so you can't use that. You might be able to get away with using Rat Swarm. That is an ability that you can use a certain distance away without alerting anyone. And there's other abilities like Bloodthirst, which are completely useless because that is a combat ability. So you're not going to be really combating anyone by trying to get the Ghost Trophy, because Bloodthirst is an ability where you take down multiple opponents, and that's certainly going to alert someone in that process. So you don't want to use that. So a particular build you want to do is, well, basically you've got options. You can get something like Possession, where you can sort of like insert yourself into, people or animals to try and get around the map without getting alerted. Or you could possibly use something like, bend time to try and slow down time so you can get past certain sections of the game, tricky sections, without being alerted, which is a good option. The only problem with using abilities like Possession and Bend Time is that they are very, very expensive, so they're not abilities that you're going to be able to use all the time, because otherwise you're just going to run out of mana, which, is something you don't want to do. Especially on a run like this, because things can get sticky really, really quickly in this game. Like, for the most part, things can be quite smooth sailing. Things are okay, and things seems, everything just seems to be alright, and like, you're playing the game, there's not much trouble, but then in an instant, things can change. So you want to be able to have these really expensive abilities on hand so that whenever you do get into a tricky situation, you can get out of it. So yeah, so for me, the best build to try and get this trophy would be to make sure you upgrade Blink to level 2 so that you can actually blink yourself to further distances, which is super handy. Then the next ability I'd want to get is, I think Dark Vision can be good, but I don't think it's really, it is helpful, but I don't think it's really that essential. The second ability you want, it's really tough to kind of determine because usually when I do different runs, I might use different abilities. But I do think that Bend Time can actually be really, really helpful. It's almost like a cheat code because I think Bend Time is actually overpowered in this game, but obviously it's super useful. But at the same time, you can't really use it all that often because it does use a lot of mana, but it is very, very handy in certain situations. But then at the same time, you don't really need all these abilities. If you're just super careful and you just make sure that, you're going around the map in certain places and at certain times, and making sure that you wait for certain enemies to pass you by, making sure that, you're actually leaning around corners to make sure enemies are there. If you do all these little things, you should be able to get through this game and get the Ghost Trophy, um, you know, pretty good, that's not the best way to word it. You should be able to do it pretty well, because you know, if you act like a stealth player, making sure you take your time in doing things, and you don't take too many risks, then you'll be able to do it. But at the same time, I guess some players, find that boring. They want to combine, stealth and combat, because that's more fun for them, or they just want to do a combat run because, a stealth run is boring. But I don't think a stealth run is boring. I think it is quite satisfying. Getting to the end of a level and realizing that, or knowing that you didn't alert anyone or you didn't take anybody out, because you're basically just a ghost. You're doing exactly what you need to do to get through the game, and that's about it.